WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Oh, yeah, that was Edwin Starr. Edwin Starr talking about war. That's a powerful song. So I played the Jacksons talking about war. And this is a very amazing time that we're living in right now. And, you know, I always got to come back to what's in your hand and what has God given to you? What is your God given talent? And I'm gonna go right. I have a guest in the studio, and he has an amazing story. He's actually a politician, but if you notice, if you've been listening to the show, I don't interview a lot of politicians. It just hasn't happened that way. But he's got an incredible story that I like because he used what was in his hand. And I want to welcome, he's actually running this Tuesday. He's running for office this Tuesday. His name is Vince Morgan. Good morning, Vince. How are you doing this morning?
Ricky Young. I walk into the studio and Edwin Starr is playing, and that sleep just like went away from me. I got all fired up and charged up to be ready to be here and talk to you. So thank you for having me on the show.
What's in your hand? We have a mutual friend, and she talked about you. She like, he is he is awesome. He's a great human being. Her name is Deanna Reber. It's my buddy.
These cool people.
She came and did an interview. She's got a great story as well. What I like about your story is that you grew up on the south side of Chicago. I've never been to Chicago.
Right.
But I hear that it's pretty rough. Is it rough?
I grew up in a neighborhood that's very much like Harlem in Chicago. It's the exact equivalent of what Harlem is in Chicago. Bronzeville, which is, I grew up on 48th and King Drive. And in Harlem, you have the Apollo Theater. In Chicago, at the same time, you had the Regal Theater, which was on 47th and King Drive. So I grew up a block away from the traditional site of the famous Black Theater. So it's almost mirror image of what Harlem is. So, you know, in the early 70s, as most people remember, you know, with urban flight, people moved out of the city centers. So I grew up in a pretty tough neighborhood. I go back there now, and very similar to Harlem, I don't even recognize the neighborhood that I grew up in because it has been completely transformed. A lot of building projects, a lot of people have been displaced and moved other places. Chicago's famous for actually taking down their tall housing developments, public housing, and replacing it with smaller buildings. And, you know, there's still a controversy in Chicago about where they displaced all of those people in public housing, too. But I grew up near Robert Taylor Homes and equidistant to Ida B. Wells housing developments.
Wow. Now, I'm going to tell you what I like about this story. Just listen to this real quick, and then I'm going to tell you what I like about this story. Just a little piece of it. Now, you say you're a music aficionado.
Mm-hmm.
Does this ring a bell? Uh-oh.
Thin line between love and hate. Give me 2 seconds and I'll remember what the artist is. It's the Intruders or Persuaders or...
You got it, the Persuaders. I'm gonna make this some bed music now.
So I grew up on the South Side, man. You know what I mean? It's the Dusty Stepper set
right.
from Chicago. My mom was a big music head, so she listened to just music constantly when I was growing up.
Wow.
So I always had there was always music playing. I'm a big Parliament Funkadelic fan too.
Music got us through.
It did.
So
and it still gets us through.
So the reason why I'm playing this song, a thin line between love and hate, but I think it's a thin line between success and failure as well.
Absolutely.
Because you were a high school dropout at 16, dropped out of high school. What was it that turned it around for you? Because you could have very easily went on that other side. It's a thin line.
You know, I look at where I've come in my life, and you know, people ask me the question all of the time, why do you want to run for public office? And my answer to that is, it's my desire to be a public servant started before I even knew it. And it started when I was 16 and I dropped out of high school, because that was that critical juncture that a lot of young people face, that they make decisions about where their life is going to go. Obviously, I made the wrong decision, but fortunately, I had somebody, put themselves in my life at that point and help me turn it around. There was this young lady I liked, and I was hanging out with in high school. And I would go over her house and hang out all of the time. And I went over her house one day, as I always did, after school. And well, it wasn't after school for me, it was after school for her. And her mother greeted me at the door like she always does. And she, it was a little different this time. She sort of cracked the door and peered out of it and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Well, I'm here just like I always am. Is your daughter home?" And she said, "My daughter doesn't hang out with high school dropouts." And she slammed the door in my face.
Wow.
And, like most kids, I puffed out my chest and said, I don't need her, blah, 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 so and so and so and so. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I get a call from the young lady, her daughter, and she says, "I have somebody here that wants to talk to you." And she puts her mother on the phone. And her mother says, "You made the biggest mistake of your life. Now, when you're willing to take responsibility for that mistake, I'm willing to help you. But until then, you are not welcome in my house." And she helped me. She helped me get into a program with the city colleges of Chicago. They helped me get my GED, and they helped me go on to junior colleges, city colleges of Chicago. And from that point, another person helped me get an application for a 4-year school. I went on to Howard University in Washington, D.C., and my life, progressed the way that it did. But it wouldn't have happened unless somebody said, "I'm not going to let this kid fail." So all of these years later, and the things that I've been able to accomplish in my life, I never forget that I could have had a very different reality if I didn't have somebody who took the time and effort to make it turn around for me. So I feel like I have an obligation to give something back. And I feel like what's in my hand is the ability to touch people and convince young people who are on that borderline of whether they're going to go right or wrong to do the right thing and stay in school, because it really makes your life easier if you get that high school diploma, I'm telling you.
Okay, I want you to listen to this piece real quick, a little quick piece here. And I want to get your opinion on this piece.
As I know here, you're in trouble. Lawyer says about 30% are unemployed. That's why I'm working hard to get this surplus food here. Some of you say to me, "Well, I'm not like you. I'm not a congressman. I haven't got education. I haven't got work." But you're a human being. And you know what you've got? You've got in your hand the power to use your vote and to use even those few cents you get from welfare to spend them only where you want to spend them. Remember that. A young slave boy stood one day before the greatest ruler of his day. And God said to Moses, "What's in your hand?" And Moses said, "Lord, only I've got a stick, that's all." He said, "Well, let me use what's in your hand." And God used that slave boy with a stick in his hand to divide the Red Seas, march through a wilderness, bring water out of rocks, manna from heaven, and bring his people to freedom land. What's in your hand? What's in your hand? George Washington Carver, who was so frail that he was traded for a broken-down horse as a slave boy. And George Washington Carver, sitting in the science laboratory at Tuskegee, told me, he said, "Dr. Powell," he said, "I just go out in the fields each morning at 5 o'clock, and I let God guide me. And I bring back these little things and work them over my laboratory, and that man did more to revolutionize the agricultural science of peanuts and of cotton and sweet potato than any other human being in the field of agricultural science." What's in your hand? Just let God use you, that's all. What's in your hand? I've got a string in my hand, that's all, and I'm flying a kite. And way up in the heavens, lightning strikes it. And I, Benjamin Franklin, discover for the first time the possibilities of electricity with a string in my hand. What's in your hand, little hunchback sitting in a Roman jail? I haven't got anything in my hand but an old quill pen, but God says, write what I tell you to write. And Paul wrote, I have run my race with patience. I have finished my course. I've kept the faith. Henceforth there's laid up to me accountability. What's in your hand, little boy? All I've got is a slingshot. And the enemies of my people are great and big and more numerous than we are. Well, little David, go down to the brook and pick out a few stones and come on back and close your eyes if you want to and pull back that slingshot and let him go. And David killed the biggest enemy, the leader of the giants, against his people, and his people became free, just letting God guide a stone in his hand. And a few years passed, and David is a king. And God says, what's in your hand? He said, I've got a harp in my hand. He said, well, David, play on your harp. And he played, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Leadeth me beside still waters. Yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. What's in your hand? What's in your hand? Man hanging on a cross. I've got 2 nails in my hand. Father, I stretch my hands to thee. No other help I know. If thou withdraws thyself from me, whither shall I go? And that man, with 2 nails in his hand, split history in half, BC and AD. And what's in your hand tonight, people of Cambridge? You've got God in your hand, and he'll let you win because he's on your side and one with God, always in the majority. So walk with him and talk with him and work with him and stick together and fight together. And with God's hand in your hand, the victory will be accomplished here sooner than you dreamed, sooner than you hoped, sooner than you prayed for, sooner than you imagined. Good night, and God bless you.
I wanna leave my footprint on the sand of time. Know there was something that meant something that I left behind. When I leave this world, I'll leave no regrets. Leave something to remember so they won't forget I was here. I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I will leave my mark so everyone will know I was here. I wanna say I lived each day until I died, and know that I meant something in somebody's life. The hearts I have touched will be the proof that I leave, that I made a difference, and this world will see I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I will leave my mark so everyone will know I was here. I lived, I loved, I was here. I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I will
So that was a powerful, powerful segment. Adam Clayton Powell to Beyonce. If you listen to the words of that song, it should inspire you to just go out there and figure out what is in your hand and use your power as a human being to do something to help somebody else. You know, everybody looks at the problems that we have in our community and they think that they're so big, they don't know where to start. And I always tell people, like, it starts with something as simple many times as hello. So you put that energy out there that you are open and ready, and, good things will happen. God will lead you to the place that you need to be.
What you didn't see the tears that were coming down as I was listening to this Beyonce song.
Well, I got a little teary-eyed, too. But it's that combination of what we as human beings have the power to do.
Well, let me give you my card. That was me when I was boxing. I used to be a professional boxer at one time, and wow, that was powerful. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the studio, I have Vince Morgan, who is a Democratic political activist, a community leader, a businessman, and he's running for he's the Democratic candidate for the New York City Council. I believe that covers the 9th.
Here in the 9th District.
The 9th District and the 10th as well?
Harlem. Central Harlem. So everything from 110th Street up to 155th Street. And Frederick Douglass Boulevard, up St. Nicholas Avenue, Convent Avenue on the west side, and on the east side, everything above 125th Street. And below that, the small parts of the East Harlem.
Well, let me back it up a little bit. Why are you here? As Beyonce was saying, she said, "I was here." Why is Vince Morgan here on the planet at this time? Father, husband, political leader.
Well, as we were talking about before, life takes you where it's supposed to take you. You just got to remain positive and sort of give yourself up to God or whatever you believe in, the universe, the force that's working within you to do something right. So if I told you 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago that I would be here at this particular place, I would have been lying, because we don't know how our life unfolds. Your life in some capacity takes you where it's supposed to go, but in another capacity, you always open yourself up to the opportunities, to the challenges that you were put here on earth to face. And one of my inspirations is looking back on where I started at this point in my life, having achieved a few things. By no means do I think I've reached my ultimate destiny, but I'm a father. I am someone who is committed to the Harlem community. I believe at this critical juncture in Harlem that we need some leadership that is going to carry the power and the force of the people of this community forward into the future. Looking back on our history, we've got a lot of people and a strong foundation, including Adam Clayton Powell and Charlie Rangel and those people that we stand on their shoulders. But we need to get beyond looking back and start looking forward, because if we don't start looking forward now, we won't be here 20 years from now.
Well, speak of looking forward. What do you see? What kind of world, what kind of community do you want to see for Violet and Julian?
I want to see a Harlem community where
let's talk about who they are.
Well, Violet is my 4-year-old daughter. And Julian is my 5-year-old son. They're 16 months apart. We were blessed to have 2 back-to-back and 2, healthy children. I got a boy and a girl combination, so my wife and I, have a wonderful, family, connection. The 4 of us, and sometimes against the world, sometimes with the world, always together. And, I want to see a Harlem that they grow up in that they're proud of. There is something to saying, I'm from a community, and this is what this community is about. It's about many different ethnic groups, as always, that have been in Harlem. We've got blacks, whites, Latinos. We've got a growing African population. We've got the derivatives of all of that with the Dominicans and the Mexicans and the Puerto Ricans and everybody else who's always gravitated towards this community because it's a powerful, historic community that has a lot of energy and has a lot of soul and a lot of heart. And I'd like to see that continue to go so that my kids grow up in a community where they point at and they say, this is the model. This is the model of community that it should be like. But what we're having now in New York City is such a divide socioeconomically that Manhattan is becoming a place where working families can't live in. Yep. And Harlem is that last bastion where working families live here and they should continue to live here. And as we develop Harlem, we should make sure that that development includes more of us so that we can be empowered economically, connected economically to this great miracle we have that's going on, and make sure that we have an economic stake in the future.
As you can see, this is a different kind of show. So what I would like to do, I'd like for you to give a shout out to Violet and Julian. Say hi to them because they're gonna hear this. They're gonna hear this recording and.
What's up, Violet and Julian? Actually, they should be waking up right now, so they will hear this live.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay, so they get a chance to, all right.
Yeah, they will. And, I will be home soon. We leave for church at 8:30.
And then you're blessed to have a very talented wife who's somewhat of a superstar in her own right.
She is the
former track star.
Yeah.
And now filmmaker.
She
Talk about her a little bit.
So my wife Shala Lynch is God works in wonderful ways. We celebrated our 7-year anniversary. Happy anniversary again, Shala, last week. And I'm just blessed to have a person in my life that really, really inspires me. So my wife is a filmmaker, and she's made 2 films and worked on a lot of other projects as a producer. But she's made 2 significant films that you should be interested in, Ricky, if you haven't already seen them. The first was Chisholm 72, Unbought and Unbossed, which won a Peabody Award in 2006.
I'm interested.
And it was the story of Shirley Chisholm's run for the presidency in 1972. And she was a phenomenal woman. And people forgot she was the first African-American to actually run for president. She went to the convention with 102 delegates, which is significant for 1972, where Nixon was the president, and we have had a very different society, way before President Obama made the case. Her second film, which was out in theaters in April, was a film called Free Angela and All Political Prisoners. And again, I know, Ricky, you're interested in these types of subjects, but it was a documentary about Angela Davis and her life, specifically focusing around the trial in 1972. That she was accused of conspiring to kidnap and murder a judge in the Marion County Courthouse, and the subsequent trial and her subsequent acquittal. It's a phenomenal story. There's a lot of award buzz about the film, and the film is done particularly well. It came out on DVD recently, so if people want to check it out, they can certainly get the DVD or download it on iTunes or check it out some type of way.
Wow, this is a pretty good interview thus far. How are you feeling so far, Vince Morgan?
I'm inspired, Rick.
You inspired? Okay.
Your show is phenomenal. The combination of just the talk and the music and all of that is phenomenal. But it's not surface. It's actually deep, because
we're going to get deeper.
We're talking about the deep subjects and hopefully inspiring some folks to get out there and vote on Tuesday.
Well, we're going to get deeper. Tell me about Sharon Leslie Morgan.
Wow. So Sharon Leslie Morgan is my mother, and she's like many young women that I come across in Harlem. She is a woman who's raised me. She got pregnant with me when she was 17, and my father left, and she just worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs to take care of me.
You have brothers and sisters?
I do not. I'm an only child, and she says today that I'm a great gift to her. And I was always her inspiration. So very, very nice to be at this point in my life where I have children that she can be grandma for.
Is she still around?
She is.
Wow.
My kids actually were up with her. She lives in upstate New York. Up with her for a big chunk of the summer. And just seeing everything come full circle for her is just very nice. She's a great grandmother. She was a great mother, and she's somebody who, I got a lot of respect for. But she really exemplifies a lot of the young women who are basically carrying their families. And I'm glad that I had such a strong mama, and strong family unit with my mother and my grandmother that raised me. These women that raised these men are phenomenal because they're mama and daddy.
So when you leave, I have a young lady that's coming on after you. We're going to be talking about, she's helping young girls because she was bullied, and so we're going to be talking about that whole issue of self-esteem and empowerment for young ladies. But I want to play a piece for you because I don't know how long I'm gonna have you. So I want to play this piece for you real quick before you go. This is very important, a very important piece. Short piece. Listen to the words. I think your mom will like this piece.
If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. This morning, the thing that I like about it, by giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great. Because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics in physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace. Soul generated by love. You can be that servant.
And you over there, and you over there, and you over there, and you can be that servant also. So I think it's important when people are running for political office, people can see and feel the human side of that person as opposed to just they are a political figure. That's my opinion. When you heard that piece by Dr. King, what became present for you?
Well, let's take it a step back. I tell people this all the time. I'm not a politician. I actually don't want to be a politician. I am an aspiring public servant, and I believe that public service takes many forms, and everyone has a calling to public service in some way, shape, or form. It's manifested itself for me by running for office. In other people's lives, it manifests itself, making the meals at their church, mentoring. There's so many different things that you can do, whether it's a big thing or a little thing, to be a public servant in some capacity in your daily life. Cleaning up, and as a group in your block is a part of public service. Being a positive force in your community is public service. So people should not be mystified by that, and they should seek out opportunities to do it. So not being a politician, I've been called to run for this office because I think I have the combination of skills that will help at this juncture in our history here. And at this critical moment where Harlem seems to be being developed in spite of many people who live here. So my calling is bigger than just my ambition and the physical job of being a city council person. I believe that, we need to have people who exercise their political offices as representatives of the people that elected them, and making sure that we remember that I'm not trying to run for office to set an agenda that I want set. I'm to run for office to set an agenda for this community that the people want. And that's a very important distinction between public service and politics.
Well, how do you think a program like this, What's in Your Hand, how important is this to a community like Harlem or all communities? How important is a program like this?
The importance of the program is that we got to communicate and talk with each other. because through that communication, we actually engage. We agree sometimes, we disagree sometimes, but we come to that conversation a point where we understand the issues, we understand the responsibilities, we understand the challenges that we all face. And through that conversation, we find that human beings have commonalities that are the foundation of what we need to do. And I think this show and shows like this hopefully inspire a wider audience of people to do it. Young people, though, are my particular interest in their involvement, and young people need to have the reinforcement and these dialogues with each other. But most importantly, they have to feel like they are listened to, because I talk to too many young people who I feel, and you can see them, that their light is not shining as bright as it should. And I hope that, my work and this radio show and other people and other radio shows make sure that they try and inspire young people to let their light shine a little bit brighter.
Yeah, that is very important. When Adam Clayton Powell, when he shared that piece, "What's in Your Hand," that was a powerful piece. Actually, it's a biblical term, as you heard, mm-hmm. And I think that you don't even have to be religious to really understand that you have something in your hand. And we all have something in our hand, a talent, an ability, a gift, a skill, and some has to be developed. What do you remember that point when you understood that education was important? Do you remember that point? Is that clear for you?
Yeah.
When it's just like, what education is important, or do you just flow into it?
I realized that education was important when I was 17 years old, and I was a high school dropout, making, at that time, minimum wage was $4.35 an hour. And I realized very quickly, because when I dropped out of high school, I had to take responsibility for myself and start paying some bills, that $4.35 an hour was not enough to sustain myself. So the importance of education happened when I realized that I couldn't function without a high school diploma in a way to keep myself going. So that's one piece of it. But throughout my life, to now, when I have children, education is the most important thing for our young people, and specifically my young black brothers and sisters, my young Latino brothers and sisters, because it's the evening thing that you have in society. They cannot take that degree from you, and they cannot take that high school diploma from you, and it makes you qualified at a level that if you don't have it, you just aren't in the game. So we've got to make sure that young people have the basis of education. And my whole agenda is about public school education. My kids are in PS 180 in Harlem, and the public school situation with the 45 schools in Harlem is grave in some of the schools. And we've got to make sure that we create an individual plan of success for these schools, so that they can actually provide that foundation for our young people, so that they can move in through high school and college. So, education, starts early, from preschool education all the way to college. And we got to make sure we have more and more of our young people who are on track to do that.
I want to play another piece for you. And you let me know what you think. His body is locked up, but his spirit is free.
This is a remarkable story of a remarkable human being. His name is Thomas Rory. When I walked into that room and saw him, it didn't take me long to realize that I was in the presence of a very special human being. It was almost like a spiritual transformation, looking at him there and saying, my gosh, could I live like that? I'm absolutely, totally dependent upon somebody else to take care of me. How does that make another human being feel? But yet, through all of this tragedy, I found a man who had found peace within himself. When a man is confronted with a certain tragedy, he either succumbs to that tragedy or he rebounds from it.
It was on Christmas Day, December 25th. There was 4 of us in the van. We was coming down an incline and down a hill. We hit ice patches when we put on the brakes, come to an intersection. It hydroplaned across the intersection, hit a tree, and flipped into the side of a house. My spinal cord actually was partially severed, barely hanging on. And the bone was crushed. I knew that I was paralyzed.
In undergoing that tragedy, he was able to find or discover his higher self. He did not let what happened to his body affect his mental outlook.
After that, I didn't even think about possessions, anything like that. I thought about my spiritual condition and my physical condition, if I was even going to be able to survive. I knew it was going to take a lot of work and a lot of pain and a lot of work to survive, even to live.
I saw a man who was in total control of his mind, who was absolutely control of his spirit. I saw a certain amount of bravery in him. I saw strength. I saw determination. He has created employment for himself. 4 separate businesses from his bed.
You can succeed if you focus, you have a vision, you put your mind to it, use your talents, use your gifts, you can succeed.
His body is locked up, but his mind is free. His spirit is free.
Everything happens for a reason. We just don't know the reasons that it happens. I think we are richer in character when we have different misfortunes in life. I suggest that you look at your life and look at it very seriously. You have to be able to take those negatives and make a positive and never give up.
In dark times, shine brighter. The Second Chance Man, the comeback of Thomas Rory. Powerful story.
That is.
I want to ask you about this piece and the Dr. King piece. I need to take a quick break.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back and we'll talk about that. I got some more surprises for you.
Excellent.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break and we shall return.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Don't touch that dial. Keep it locked on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.